Assalamualaikum and a very good day to everyone's watching and listening. So we are back with another podcast to discuss about the namesake novel by Jhumpa Lahiri. I'm sure the readers have questions and these questions needs to be answered and we are here to answer the questions. I'm Nabilah together with my friend Syifah. We are going to discuss three questions regarding some of the difficulty of reconciling cross-cultural rituals around death and dying. So let's take a look at the questions. So as we all know, Lahiri explores in several ways the difficulty of reconciling cross-cultural rituals around death and dying. For instance, Ashima refuses to display the rubbings of gravestones young Gogol makes with his classmates. And when Gogol's father suddenly dies, Gogol's relationship with Maxine is strained and quickly ends. So the first question, Syifah, why do you think their love pair can't survive Gogol's grief?
So I think there are a lot of reasons, but the main one here is because Maxine could not keep up with Gogol's sudden change of attitude after the death of his father. Although Maxine tries to be there and is kind of sad on Gogol's behalf, she still could not understand well about the Bengali culture and Gogol's way of coping with the death of his father. This can be seen where Maxine attends the ceremony in Ashok's honor, where she tries to convince Gogol to go on the vacation that they've planned for the New Year's Eve. And she suggested that it is good for him to get away from all the mourning, since Gogol really loved how the Radcliffes spend their vacation. So Maxine thought it would be a good idea, but turns out it's not. So that is why I think their love affair could not survive Gogol's grief, because Gogol changed into this whole new person which Maxine have difficulty to understand him well.
Or to add to that, all these times Gogol has been ignoring his heritage for so long. And since after the death of his father, he has the sudden desire to return to his roots. And unfortunately, he doesn't have the patience to transition slowly back to Bengali culture or help Maxine understand this change. He simply reverts to the other side of himself that has always been there, a side he has kept from Maxine. And this makes Maxine feels like he becoming a stranger to her. And Gogol, on the other hand, also sees Maxine as an outsider ever since he pulled back towards his tradition. So I hope that answers the first questions. Now moving on to the second one. How does the loss of Gogol's father turn him back towards his family? Sure, can you please answer this?
So after the death of his father, Gogol returns back to Boston suburbs, and he spends a few days with his sister and mother to go through the family's mourning together. And this forces him to take part in a Hindu religious ceremony commemorating his father. And during those days, Gogol realized how distant he has grown from his family roots. And even though Gogol has spent years trying to erase memories of his past, the death of his father makes him realize that he is now lost in the memories of his father. And he wants to remember the death of his father just as Ashok once told him to do. So Gogol starts to feel comfortable with Bengali traditions that formerly felt meaningless to him. He also begins to understand and appreciate the Bengali practice of avoiding meat during mourning, even though he used to hate it when he was little. So I think this is how the death of Gogol's father affect him and makes him go back to his family roots. Okay, so as we already discussed how it affects Gogol, how do you think the death of his father also changed Sonia and Ashima's relationship?
Okay, so unlike Gogol, Sonia has an easier time growing up in America. She is popular among her friends and she has been adapting well with the American lifestyle. This cross-culture between her American friends and her Bengali background causing Sonia to struggle with her Bengali identity. She starts to dye her jeans black, changing her hairstyles and live like a true American teenager. That's why Sonia and Ashima are always arguing. Then Sonia moves out from home, leaving Ashima and Ashok to continue her study in California. After Ashok died, Sonia moves home to be with Ashima, leaving behind her life in San Francisco without much of a backward glance. Sonia takes care of Ashima while she was going through the mourning of Ashok's death, and their relationship started to improve. So that's how it changes Sonia and Ashima's relationship, in my opinion.
So, now we know how the death of Gogol's father changed a lot of things, right? And the changes not only happens to Gogol, it happens to his relationship and his family as well. So, that's all from us. Thank you for listening to our podcast and see you in the next episode.